The release of the Nintendo Switch 2 may be just around the corner, and I can't be more excited for it. But today, we're going to celebrate the console that paved the way. Today, March 3rd, 2005, the Nintendo Switch turns 8 years old, and I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about 11 games that you can only play on the Switch that I consider to be eternal classics. These are not in any particular order, and there may be titles and franchises that didn't make the list, but that doesn't mean they don't also deserve to be here. Some things I developed more of an attachment to than others, and some things I simply just didn't get to play yet. The Switch has a seriously deep library of games, and I haven't been able to get to a number of things that I'm certain would be classics. So this is only based on my personal experience. I'd love to hear your list too. With that said, let's jump in with the first title on my list. Number 11, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Kirby has a history dating all the way back to the original Game Boy and NES consoles, and to be honest, in spite of everyone loving him right from the start, I was never drawn in all that much. Maybe when I was younger I thought he was just for kids or too cute to be cool, I don't know for sure. But during the Switch years, I opened up and started checking out some of his games. I think the thing that finally endeared him to me was when I found out that he was named after one of Nintendo's attorneys, one that got them through a lot of issues in the early days of the Famicom and the NES. Lore like that always interests me, and eventually, I was counted among the ranks of Kirby fans. But when the Forgotten Lands showed up on a Nintendo Direct, I was all in right away. I loved the look of the environments, and being able to explore in 3D was amazing, even if the areas were limited in size. And we can't talk about this game without mentioning how cool the abilities were. Mouthful mode was surprising and hilarious, and made this game a must-play. Number 10, Astral Chain. Astral Chain was largely overlooked for most of the Switch's life cycle. It's such a unique title though, I wish more people had tried it out. The combat is super fast and chaotic, the visual presentation was bold and stylish, and full of high contrast scenes with bright accent colors and blasts of light. But with this one, the gameplay is the start, which makes sense because it was developed by Platinum Games, and when it comes to fast, fun combat, they're in a class all their own. No one does it quite like Platinum. I wanted this in my collection from the very first time I saw it, but it took me a couple years before I picked up a copy. But I'm so glad I did. Number 9, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. What is there to say about this one that hasn't already been said? Everyone is here. Except, of course, for Waluigi, I guess. That still burns a little. Oh, and Crash Bandicoot. That would have been nice, but if the rumors are true, and Sakurai is working on the next installment of this game, hopefully those two make the cut this time. But that's all besides the point. This game was amazing. I was always and still remain a casual Smash player, but part of the power of this game is that there's so much depth sitting behind an easy pick-up-and-play title that there's room for people of every skill level, from beginner to pro. And maybe that's what they really meant by everyone is here, because everyone was playing this one. Number 8, Metroid Dread. Wow, what a blast this was. The subtitle of Dread was created and sat unused for so many years, attached to a game that was only a rumor, a ghost of a game that had been cancelled years ago and slipped into the ether. But then, suddenly, here comes Nintendo with a surprise. This blew people away and was another very memorable Nintendo Direct announcement. Outstanding visual presentation, music that was immersive as it was eerie and isolating, great gameplay, exploration, boss battles, power-ups, and finally, a continuation of Samus's story. An instant classic in my opinion, and the best 2D Metroid game they've ever made, standing shoulder to shoulder with Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo, and raising that bar just a little bit with modern visuals and mechanics. Number 7, Splatoon 3. Nintendo was onto something when they gave us the first Splatoon on the Wii U. Fun, competitive multiplayer combat that was colorful, lighthearted, but still intense. When the Switch was young, we got Splatoon 2, which was a great new iteration of the formula. Then eventually came Splatoon 3. We could tell from the early teasers that this was going to be another big evolution for the series. Everything seemed bigger. Here we got more of everything. More music, more customization, more ways to play, and one of my favorite parts, more lore. It's hard to choose between Splatoon 2 and 3 because they both have their individual shining moments. Even just writing this has me excited to see what they do with Splatoon 4 on the Switch 2. It's safe to assume that they'll keep adding to and enhancing the multiplayer, because that is, of course, the heart of the game. But, although it may be an unpopular opinion, my own personal hope is that they give us a really deep, involved single-player campaign beyond anything we've seen so far. Number 6. ARMS. I know whenever ARMS comes up, people wave it off and dismiss it. But they shouldn't, because it's kind of awesome. I get it, the motion controls aren't for everyone, but as a new franchise being introduced in the first year of the console, I was stoked to see it. I thought the battle music was hype and the character designs were strange and fun. I couldn't wait to try this game. I'd have a hard time even telling you who my main was because I had such a good time swapping back and forth between all the different characters. I think most people believe Nintendo was disappointed in this game's sales performance and that it was just a one-off. But I'm here to tell you today, I absolutely believe we're going to see ARMS 2 on the Switch 2. And here's why. If Nintendo considered it a failure, we would never have gotten Min Min as a playable character in Smash Ultimate. They even made an amiibo for her. And if that's not enough, just remember, ARMS sold 2.7 million copies. Certainly that's worth a follow-up. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Number 5. Mario Odyssey. It was so much fun watching people get excited online about this one. Sure, there have been many wonderful 3D Mario games before, and of course everyone loves the Galaxy games, but this one was different. It was so big and special. It was full of new friends and enemies, incredible worlds to visit, and the Cappy ability was a freaking blast. I always thought it was funny that Nintendo was so sensitive about people using the word possession when referring to Cappy taking control of another character. They very much wanted people to say capture instead of possess. But his name was Cappy, and he was a spirit. It kind of makes sense. I'm not really sure what they expected people to think. Mario Odyssey was a 10 out of 10, and even though I don't expect we'll ever see a direct sequel to it, I'm sure that whatever they're cooking up for the next 3D Mario game is going to be outstanding. Number 4. Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. So many conversations were being had at the time about how a Legend of Zelda game could actually work without a playable Link, and many were concerned that the core gameplay mechanic of duplicating items that you find in the world would become repetitive and boring. Then the game finally released, and the internet showered it with praise. What a surprise. I will always wonder what makes someone question the potential quality of a Zelda game. It's a franchise that they hold to the very highest of quality standards, and they've had nearly 40 years of practice in making these. But I get it, change can be scary, and at one point long ago, even Miyamoto himself was unsure if a Zelda-led Zelda game could work. Lucky for all of us, they figured it out. This game was a pure joy to play. The toy-like aesthetic was brought over from Link's Awakening Remake, and we were dropped into a sandbox world that was far larger than any of us expected. They even carried over a ton of the lessons they learned when making Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and then they applied those to a 2D environment. It was great. We need more of these, and I have a strong feeling we'll be getting them in the years to come. I just hope the wait isn't too long. Before we get into the final 3, I wanted to mention a few of the outstanding games that could easily deserve to be in this list if I'd made it on a different day or in a different mood. The undeniable truth is that the Switch just has too many modern classics to count. I'm sure if one of you were writing this list, we'd see games like Bayonetta, Xenoblade, Super Mario Party, Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem, Paper Mario, Bowser's Fury, Pikmin 4, and many others. There's so many others, and you'd be right in every single case. I'd love to see what you would add or delete from this list down in the comments. Let's celebrate the Switch's 8th anniversary by discussing what we love about this system's library. But now, let's get back to the last 3. Number 3. Luigi's Mansion 3. Easily one of the most visually arresting games on the Switch. Eerie, fun, and beautiful. A great game for Halloween. As a matter of fact, I wanted to stream this one during Halloween last year, but didn't have the opportunity. An October playthrough is at the top of my list this year, though. Luigi's Mansion 3 took everything that was good about the first 2 games and made it better. And what's not to like about Gooigi? If you haven't played this one, I encourage you to go pick it up and check it out. You won't be disappointed. Number 2. Super Mario Wonder. Just when you think 2D Mario games had been cast aside and forgotten about, Nintendo shows up and drops this on us. Wow. I have to be honest, I kind of figured they'd do occasional iterations to 2D Mario, but I expected them to become more and more bland and forgettable each time. You know, gradually. I love that this company still has endless tricks up their sleeve and an ability to keep secrets that will shock us. Super Mario Wonder, for me, felt like the first time I played Super Mario World. Very new, yet still comfortably familiar. Just an all-around enjoyable experience. I couldn't even tell you how many times I laughed out loud openly during my first playthrough. You had to keep going in this one because you were always wondering what was the next weird thing that would happen. This is one to return to from time to time, just to bathe in the absurdity. And last but not least, number 1, Breath of the Wild. The game that made the Switch what it is today. The game that, at one point, had sold more copies than the console itself. Breath of the Wild was such a big deal that friends and family of mine that had nothing to do with video games were talking about it, asking me questions, showing interest in experiencing it. It was a moment in gaming history that doesn't come along very often, and it's proof of the power of this medium. I don't need to tell you about this game. I know if you're hearing my words right now, you already know all about it. There you have it. 11 amazing games that I think will live on into the future as classics that no one should miss. I can't wait to hear what your list is going to look like. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.